What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing a Pokemon that's been in the game for a while now but was previously near impossible to obtain for the Open Great League until very recently, and that Pokemon is Galarian Corsola's evolution, Cursola. Now this Pokemon released as an Egglocke Pokemon and at level 20, unfortunately it is too high in CP to squeeze into the Great League, but with the deluxe April Go Pass that I believe is only available in certain regions of the world, one of the last encounters is with a level 15 Cursola, which can now evolve into Cursola and fit into the Great League. Now, unlike Galarian Cursola, which has a pretty high stat product, Cursola is actually very attack weighted, having a higher attack stat than Morpeko and around the same as Rayquaza and Salazzle, two of my absolute favorite glass cannons out there. Now, if you aren't in one of the regions that has the April Go Pass, or if you just can't afford the deluxe edition, are you missing out on much? Well, the answer is no, not really. I feel like with Astonish users, the Glacier ones have to have a really cheap energy charge move to be able to compete with the bulkier versions, and of course, Cursola and Cursola have the exact same moveset, so it is just unfortunately a strict downgrade. Also, this might not be the best team to showcase what it can do, but I've completely run out of charge DMs after, of course, wasting a ton of them on both the Sandshrew and the Omanyte recently, where I was trying to get an elite charge DM move with regular TMs because I just didn't realize that they were legacy. So, yep, got no TMs. This isn't the best team to showcase this Pokemon, and it definitely didn't go as well as I was hoping for. And actually, someone pulled off the most outrageous 2-shield flex against me that I've ever seen, so stay tuned for that battle. But anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What's the most disappointing Pokemon or team that you've tried out this season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, heading into the first battle in Shadow Golbat into Shadow Hypnos. Of course, this is definitely not ideal for me. I haven't seen Shadow Hypno in a while. I'm going to say swap into the Spiritomb, and the opponent responds with an Umbreon. So this is actually where Spiritomb is doing what it's supposed to be doing, baiting out a Dark-type Pokemon. So hopefully, Cursola does have a better time in the back. And of course, since I've gone for Rock Tomb here, I think I'm actually going to shield the first charge move. The opponent full sends a Dark Pulse, so very glad I shielded that. Now I can get off a second Rock Tomb before the opponent lands any charge move damage. So Rock Tomb, number 2, gets the Umbreon incredibly low already, actually, and now I can safely no-shield this. You're going to see Dark Pulse really doesn't do that much damage now, and I can still outpace them to another Rock Tomb because they did actually stay in with that Shadow Hypno for quite a while before swapping out. So at this point, I can still live this next charge move, and I might even grab both shields from the opponent or just flip switch advantage. I don't really mind either way. So at this point, I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Rock Tomb here just before they reach the next move, and Rock Tomb does allow me to flip switch advantage up against the Umbreon. They come back in with the Shadow Hypno. We come in with the with the Cursola, and the opponent comes in with a Azumarill. So this point we come in with the Shadow Golbat. I'm going to no-shield this first charge move. Of course, Ice Beam is super effective. It does big damage, but Shadow Golbat able to hang on, able to reach a Poison Fang. Poison Fang grabs the final shield from the opponent, and Shadow Golbat able to reach another Poison Fang before they fully farm me down. Poison Fang, number 2, does big damage, and actually the opponent does not throw straight away, allowing Cursola to reach a Nightshade. Nightshade, of course, winning CMP, getting the KO there, and the opponent, whilst they do, of course, have a bit of energy, they're just going to be fully farmed down by Astonish, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, and once again, Spiritomb doing exactly what it's there for, baiting out another Dark type, going straight for Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb is going to be no-shielded by the opponent, which is fine with me. At this point, I'm actually going to no-shield the first charge move here, so I'm going to play it slightly differently to the previous one here, just because the opponent is slightly less spammy to those charge moves. If I can grab an early shield advantage at this point, I'm happy with that. So at this point, I'm going to let the Spiritomb go down. The opponent is going to fire for Foul Play. Unfortunately, Foul Play doesn't do that much damage now that they're double debuffed, and they get quite a huge farm down. So maybe I should have shielded that first charge move, but either way, it's okay. We come in with the Golbat. Foul Play really not doing much damage at this point, and I can still go for a pretty aggressive farm down myself. The opponent going to come back in with the Blastoise most likely, so I go for one wing attack, fire off the Poison Fang here. Poison Fang is going to be shielded by the opponent for some reason, maybe expecting a Shadow Ball, but either way, probably wouldn't have shielded that myself. They're going to come in with Emolga, and at this point, I'm definitely going to shield. They fire off the discharge. I'm going to farm up throw on the CMP tie with the second discharge, easily winning CMP. Nightshade gets the KO there. They come back in with a Blastoise, and again throwing on CMP, winning CMP. Nightshade does big damage, and I think the safe play here is probably just to let the Cursola go down. The opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon. We're going to come back in with the Shadow Golbat. We fire off the Poison Fang, doesn't really matter. Air Cutter actually does the same damage, so could have thrown a charge move slightly sooner there, but either way, we get the KO up against the Blastoise, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. See a Talonflame in the lead now. I swap out here. I didn't really need to. It was a neutral situation. But I realized I do have rock coverage on both my Pokemon in the back. However, they will outpace me to that first charge move. So, at this point, gonna fire off the Rock Tomb. I could go for Shadow Ball and probably get the one shot. But I bait with the Rock Tomb and it backfires as the opponent does actually just let that move go through. However, if I landed the Shadow Ball, got the KO, what the opponent could have possibly done is come in with the Talonflame and then farm me down before I reach another charge move anyways. So, at this point, it's not that bad. We're going to go for the Poison Fang. They no shield, so I swap Ice Knife with the Cursola, and we get the Astonished Farm down. But they've got a Gastrodon in the back, and this is where Cursola's lack of bulk really hinders it. You can see we don't even reach back-to-back Nightshades. The opponent can just commit the shield, commit to a full Mud Slap farm down. And whilst I am resisting the Mud Slap damage, these Body Slams, they are going to chunk a fair bit, and they will outpace me to 3 Body Slams before I can reach 2 Air Cutters. So I'm going to keep on farming, but the opponent already at Body Slam number 3. And of course, from this range, Body Slam takes out the Shadow Golbat, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into next battle. Great lead for me. And the opponent's going to Safe Swap into a Golisopod. So absolutely fine with me. Going to go straight for an Air Cutter as the opponent does swap out there 1 turn behind. Air Cutter also gets the attack boost, which is very nice. At this point, I'm just going to match shields here. Going to go and shield up the Aqua Jet. And I can always outpace them now that I am a few turns ahead. I'm going to go for another Air Cutter. Get the KO there. And we get the boost once again. They come in with a Blastoise. And I'm actually going to stay in here. Fire off the charge move straight away, hoping the opponent was going to throw it immediately. However, they realize they're going to lose CMP, so instead they do of course just over farm there. I'm going to come in with a Spiritomb, looking to just fully sacrifice it here. Don't really care what happens to the Spiritomb. This is a Cursola showcase, so at this point I'm going to let the next move go through. Hydro Cannon gets the KO there. We can now wait out the switch lock as I am switch locked here. Come in with the Cursola, and the opponent's going to swap back into their Primate. Now I can just barely live a Rage Fist. However, the opponent looking to farm up to back-to-back moves. Nightshade gets the KO, and that's absolutely game over. The opponent recognizing they've made a mistake, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's up on there into next battle. We see Shadow Golbat into Pachirisu. So, of course, not ideal for me. Going to be swapping into my Spiritomb, and I'm met with a Shadow Venusaur. So, this is a matchup where, at least in the 2-shield scenario, I can very easily flip this because I can just go for a full Sucker Punch farm down. This one, I shield the first charge move here. Going to fire off the Rock Tomb, and Rock Tomb is going to be no shielded by the opponent. So, the opponent happy to take a shield advantage here. Maybe that means they have 2 answers to my Shadow Golbat in the back, in which case, not really ideal for me to be a shield down, and still my Shadow Golbat not being able to do much. But either way, we're going to come in with the Spiritomb. I'm just going to let it go down at this point, but Thunderbolt actually does not get the KO. They get an extra Volt Switch through. Going to come in with the Cursola, and they've unfortunately got a huge core breaker to the team in the form of Dunsparce. Of course, Dunsparce not as common this season as in previous seasons, but still going to be very problematic for this team. I'm going to shield this move here as I can now go for another charge move. I'm going to go for the Air Cutter, otherwise they will outpace me to another Rock Side. Air Cutter does grab the first shield from the opponent, but there's just nothing I can do here. They do overfarm a little bit. They fire off the Rock Side. Rock Side gets the KO up against the Golbat, and I need to honestly farm up to back-to-back charge moves, and even then, I'm still not going to be able to win this game. Duran does big damage. I'm going to continue farming here. The opponent reaches another Duran before I can farm them down or anything like that, and of course, Duran takes out the Cursola, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into next battle. Shadow Golbat into a Jumpluff, and the opponent's going to Safe Swap into Claydol. So this is fine with me here, but I don't swap out straight away. Honestly, a little bit strange. I don't know why I'm staying in here. I guess I'm just farming up a ton of energy before eventually swapping into my Spiritomb. I'm hoping if the opponent does just go for another Rock Tomb here, I can tank this and still commit to a full farm down. And Rock Tomb, they do go for it there. Debuffs the attack, but we still get the farm down. We come out with quite a lot of energy. Hopefully, after debuffing their attack with a Rock Tomb, maybe I can reach 2 Rock Tombs, and I am just barely able to do so. So that is actually perfect for me. Rock Tomb number 2 grabs a shield from the opponent. At this point as well, Golbat is very healthy. The opponent's going to swap into Jellicent, so going straight for Air Cutter here. Air Cutter going to be no shielded, and now because of that slight chip damage with the Air Cutter, I can just safely shield once and go for a full Astonished farm down. They full send the Shadow Ball there, doesn't really matter. We come out with the Power Gem loaded, and Power Gem does huge damage to the Jumpluff, and so the opponent is just going to concede the match. So, GG's up on their into next battle, Shadow Golbat into Unnovan Stunfisk. So again, not ideal for me. I feel like I either had really good leads or really bad leads, and there were just no in between with the Shadow Golbats. We're going to swap into Spiritomb, and the opponent responds with a Primeape. Now, I really don't want to go for a bait here and have the opponent call it, so I'm going to go and full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is shielded, and we do at least grab a shield advantage there, so that's fine with me. I'm going to let the Spiritomb go down. Rage Fist doesn't quite get the KO there. It doesn't make too much of a difference unless they're on Ice Punch, because of course Ice Punch is going to do a lot of damage now that they're double boosted. But if this is just another Rage Fist here, then they're only going to reach one anyways, so I'm able to go for a full Wing Attack farm them down just before they reach the next charge move. I swap out straight away, and they've got Jumpluff in the back. So at this point, I'm definitely going to shield the first charge move here. The opponent is going to go for an Energy Ball, so it's definitely don't know if they're running Acrobatics or Aerial Ace as that secondary charge move. Power Gem does big damage, but unfortunately they do reach a charge move here. I'm going to have to no shield. It is just an Aerial Ace there, but that is really unfortunate. That actually puts me into range where they can just Thunder Shock farm me down. We go for Nightshade. The opponent actually no shields there. That is huge for me because, of course, Golbat only has resisted charge moves as I'm not running Shadow Ball. So at this point, I'm going to have to shield this up here, and then what I'm going to try to do is overfarm by one and throw on CMP with the next discharge, and we're able to do exactly that. If they farm me down there, it's a guaranteed loss, but maybe we've got some hope if I can Astonish farm them down. The opponent goes for discharge. Can we get the farm down? No, we're just barely not able to do so. They live with a few HP and a dream, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's to that opponent there into the next battle. Awful lead matchup for me, and for God's sake, like, what even is this team? How are you still playing this team in 2025? Like, you genuinely cannot have fun playing this team. I get maybe they're just playing for the resources, but either way, like, oh man, whatever. We're going to wait out our switch shot, come in with the Shadow Golbat. I don't really want to use my shield here. I should live an Icy Wind. I mean, the game is pretty much over anyways. It doesn't matter if they've got a Charm User or a Razor Leafer or a Mud Slapper in the back. Literally doesn't matter. Cursola can do pretty much nothing anyways, as it is just so glassy. So I'm going to go for a Poison Fang here, debuff their defense just in case they do stay in with the Bastiodon, but it's a Razor Leaf, Shadow Victory Bell, and so I'm just going to concede the match. But into the next battle, Shadow Golbat into Licky. Great, another lost lead. So we're going to swap into Spiritomb here, and the opponent is choosing to stay in. So maybe not the best answer to a Spiritomb. They're going to chip with the Licky, and the opponent actually goes for an Earthquake, which does huge damage. They then swap into a Kanto Marowak. So at this point, gonna fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does big damage there. It puts them into range where I probably can shield once with the Shadow Golbat, and then go for a full Wing Attack farm down. So that's definitely going to be the play here. We are going to shield up the rock side, and now the opponent is going to just barely reach another charge move. It's just going to be a Bone Club. I'm going to no shield this. Bone Club is single resisted there, so it doesn't do much damage, and I do get that farm down. Now the opponent is going to come back in with their Licky most likely, and they do exactly that. So going to go straight for the Poison Fang. Poison Fang is going to debuff their defense there, and if they stay in and commit to a Body Slam, I'm going to be able to reach an Air Cutter. So throw on the CMP tie. Air Cutter grabs a shield from the opponent. Maybe should have gone for Poison Fang there, but I'm going to no shield anyways as they go for a Body Slam. I'm actually going to stay in and get off that Wing Attack because, of course, Astonish is double resisted, but they swap out into their final Pokemon, a Toxapex. And actually, look at the Astonish damage here. We are seriously chunking. I'm going to shield. They full send a Sludge Wave, which does do more damage than a Brine, but still kind of a strange decision. I'm now going to go for the Nightshade. Nightshade puts them into farm down range. It just depends. Can they reach an Earthquake here? Before I reach back-to-back Nightshades, it's going to be close, but I think I'm at back-to-back. I can go for the Nightshade, and yes, we're at back-to-back charge moves. Could have gone for the Power Gem, but actually from this range, double resisted. Nightshade still gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. We see a Medicham in the lead. So, of course, not really ideal for me as they are actually going to be on Psycho Cut. And I've got two Pokemon that, of course, are going to take neutral damage from the Ice Punches. So, I do swap out here. It is also an ABB style team. So, kind of need to bait out any threats to the Cursola in the back. Of course, they come in with a Carbink, which is kind of a core breaker to the Golbat and the Spiritomb. But we go for the Rock Tomb there, debuffing their attack. And if they commit to a full farm down, I can now go for a Shadow Ball. A Shadow Ball going to do a lot more damage in this matchup than, of course, that Rock Tomb, and they no shield once again. So at this point, I was thinking if the opponent, if they don't throw straight away, I can go for a Poison Fang, and they don't throw straight away, but I actually do come in with the Cursola. Gonna shield the first move there as they go for a Power Gem, and then I did think about swapping, trying to catch a Moonblast, but the opponent full sends it, and they were debuffed there. That still does big damage, and they come in with a Forest, so definitely not ideal for me. We go for Power Gem. They no shield once again. They swap into Medicham, and I can go straight for an Air Cutter. Of course, Air Cutter gonna hit for super effective damage. It does not get the boost here, but that's okay. I'm just gonna use my final shield here. I will be able to go for a full wing attack, farm down, and I will come out with a decent amount of energy, but they've got 2 shields remaining. We go straight for the Poison Fang here. Poison Fang still gets no shielded by the opponent. We drop their defense there, and I don't think a Swift will get the KO. It doesn't take us out, but they still hang on, and they go for the Sucker Punch farm down, as Astonish is a 3-turn fast move, and one of the craziest 2 shield flexes I've ever seen. But GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle. Shadow Drapion in the lead. We can win CMP here, going straight for Air Cutter. Air Cutter gonna be shielded. We don't get the boost once again, and I'm actually going to shield the first Charge Move, as it's pretty likely that they do just go for a Crunch there, but this time they go for an Aqua Tail, which we can tank pretty comfortably, so I'm gonna let this move go through here. I'm now gonna overfarm. The opponent swaps into a Dugong, so I'm gonna go for a Poison Fang here, drop their defense, just make this matchup a lot easier for the Spirit Team, because of course if I swap in behind on energy, they can debuff me straight away, and whilst I do have Rock Tomb to hit for super effective damage, of course Rock Tomb, when it's debuffed, not going to do too much up against this Dugong. So at this point, we fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb will get the KO there. They come in with a Zoom Reel, so I think I'm just going to commit to a Shadow Ball. I am debuffed in my attack, so it's not going to do too much damage here, but that chip is kind of valuable here, as of course now we can come in with a Cursola. I mean, they're not going to be able to bubble farm me down anyways, and I'm going to shield whatever they throw, so debuffing their attack there with a Rock Tomb wasn't necessarily needed, so I go for the extra damage with that Shadow Ball. I'm now going to overfarm here. I'm going to throw just before the opponent reaches the next Charge Move, then swap into Golbat, and the opponent fires off the Charge Move there. The opponent actually goes for Play Rough. They undercharge it, but I'm able to reach an Air Cutter, and they're actually a lot healthier than I remembered. So Air Cutter actually gets the boost though, and that is huge for me as we get the wing attack farm down, and now we can come in with the Cursola, go for that Astonish farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, see a Nidoqueen in the lead. So, straight away, when you see Nidoqueen, you're going to think Nidoqueen Double Dark, maybe. Of course, very popular back in the day. Not so much these days, as Nidoqueen and a few of the Dark types that you would pair it with have been nerfed, and they come in with Umbreon. So, this point, I'm thinking, wow, this is really awkward for me, because I've got 2 Ghost types in the back, and whilst Golbat is going to do pretty well up against that Nidoqueen, and possibly, I don't know, if they're running like a Pangoro or a Scrafty in the back, it would do pretty good there, but I can't just solo the whole team with my Golbat. As you can see, we're already getting fairly low, and I have used a shield whilst the opponent has not. But either way, staying in, going for another Poison Fang. Poison Fang gets them low, and at this point, I definitely should have just swapped out straight away into my Spirit Team, but instead, I stay in with the Golbat. I fire off the Air Cutter, grab a shield from the opponent, and then I swap into my Cursola. I don't really know why I swapped into Cursola here, as now I'm definitely going to have to shield respect the damage from the Earth Power, and there it is, a Scrafty, which is really awkward for me, because of course, up against my Spirit Team, whilst they're only going to hit for neutral damage with their foul plays, Sucker Punch is double resisted, but they do let that first move go through there. They go for a foul play, which does get the KO there, but I just don't know what I can do in this situation. So going to come in with the Spirit Team. I am going to swap out here just before they reach the Charge Move, and the opponent banks the energy, but they still don't throw straight away, so I can get off a Rock Tomb before they've gone and fired off a foul play, which is quite big for me, because of course this is only neutral damage. Foul Play doesn't do that much damage. They do have back-to-back here, but maybe I can commit to a full Sucker Punch farm down. It's going to be close, but the opponent realizing they can just swap into Nidoqueen, and they're able to get a full Poison Jab farm down, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the final battle of this video, leading into a Zoom Reel, so a fairly neutral matchup here. I'm going to go straight for the Poison Fang, and we've seen this already. Shadow Golbat can tank an Ice Beam. It's not super comfortable, and they will be able to farm me down. However, I think I will shield this, just because I don't know if I would reach a second Poison Fang if I do let that go through. So at this point, we are now going to go for an Air Cutter. I realized if the opponent wants to throw on good timing here, they will overfarm by 1 bubble, but unfortunately, the opponent does not do that. So at this point, I'm just going to let the Golbat go down. Ice Beam gets the KO, but we can come in with the Cursola, get the farm down, and they come in with a Clodsire, so that's fine with me. I'm now going to throw just before they reach the Earthquake. We go for the Nightshade. Nightshade does respectable damage, and I'm waiting for the opponent to throw, and they just continue to overfarm, so I do throw on poor timing there, which is not ideal for me, but of course, I was kind of just expecting the opponent to throw there, so I was waiting for them to throw. They actually bait with a Sludge Bomb, so now I'm going to swap, catch the Earthquake onto my Spiritomb. I don't know what they've got in the back. I'm hoping Cursola can be pretty good against it, and it will certainly be as they come in with a Shadow Annihilate. They're forced to throw straight away, but it doesn't really matter. Rage Fist boosts up their attack, but look at the Astonish damage. We get the full farm down. We come out with the Nightshade loaded, and of course, from this range up against Clodsire, it gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.